All right, everybody. It's been a while. Episode 24, Sports and Nothing Else podcast, or at least that's what I think we're still calling it. Kyle, you haven't been on this podcast since like March. How's it going?
Took a nice hiatus, recuperated a little bit. Did not get any sun because it's colder than heck out here, but other than that, pretty good. How you doing?
Good. We were scrambling for coats this week here in Florida because it was like 60. So,
oh man,
it
snowed here.
Gross. I did enjoy seeing the Packers game have some snow at the end. Felt like old times. Certainly more snow than points for the Seahawks. Listen, we have not talked since the World Series ended. We have not talked since the NBA season started. We haven't talked football since, honestly, you haven't been on this podcast since we were doing preview podcasts, I think. Maybe one other time for the NFL. So we have a lot to talk about.
Let me look at my most recent notes. It was Sam Darnold going to win the rushing title.
Not the starting quarterback anymore.
The Packers are good. Denver can't score. The Vegas will fade.
Yeah, and they are.
Not your grandfather's Chargers. Turns out it is. Chiefs will not finish in last, but I was looking pretty accurate there.
Yeah, you can take your victory lap if you want. But here's the thing. A lot has happened in the NFL, and we love the NBA, and we didn't even talk MLB playoffs, which is really sad because that's really our sweet spot. So what I told Kyle to do for tonight is just write down 4 topics he wanted to talk about, and then I wrote down 4 I wanted to talk about, and we're just going to try to like randomly swing through a bunch of stuff. So if you like nice and orderly and a really good rundown like on PTI, this is not it. This is going to be all over the place. If you like rapid fire hot takes that are nonsense, this is probably the podcast for you. But we still won't venture into the Skip Bayless range because we have self-respect. So, Kyle, where do you want to start?
Do you want to do yours first or mine first? Doesn't matter.
We can go back. I can go back and forth. Back and forth is fine.
Okay.
Let's do this. We'll go with something that's actually recent. Kyle, I want to talk about top 5 Super Bowl contenders. If you listened to this podcast the last time we did it, which was also a long time ago, it was me and Joel. We did our power rankings. Definitely would have some changes there. So, Kyle, do you want to go from 5 to 1? Is that how you want to do it?
Let's see if our 5 teams match up and just say them in no particular order. And also, I was trying to do this exercise today when I got home from work, and it kind of tied back into one of your points, which is the NFL is impossible. I have no idea on this. But I would say my 5 in no particular order would be Buffalo, the Rams, the Cardinals, Packers, Cowboys.
Okay. Mine are similar. I know everybody is scared of the Titans because of Derrick Henry and stuff, but I don't know how they can't be in your top. I mean, first of all, they're your team, which maybe you're more realist about it than I am, but here's the teams they've beaten in the last several weeks. Starting in week 6 they beat the Bills, then they beat the Chiefs, and they didn't just beat the Chiefs, they beat the doors off of the Chiefs. Then they beat the Colts in Indianapolis, because Carson Wentz likes to throw passes left-handed. And then they won in Los Angeles against the Rams. And last week they beat the Saints. Those are 5 playoff teams. They beat them all in consecutive weeks. In the middle of that, they lost what has been the best player in football this season. I understand that we don't trust Tannehill and we don't trust the defense and the whole thing, but they're playing better than anyone right now. So they're on my list. My list would go Bills, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Titans. I don't trust the Rams. That is 2 really stinkers in a row. And I almost didn't put the Buccaneers on the list. It's just because they have Tom Brady, because they really have not been playing well either. But it's hard to find really good teams. There's a whole bunch of teams that are like a squishy middle, and maybe a couple of them will pop out of that pack. But right now, I still think the Bills are the most complete team. But Josh Allen does some dumb stuff sometimes. They scored 6 points 2 weeks ago against the worst team in football that's not the Lions. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what to do with that. So
Couple counterpoints to that. One, I've watched all these Titans games, and I haven't felt secure in a single one of them, even when they're up by a lot of points, because that defense is really bad. Now they've been really lucky in the last
It
3
is
to 4
not.
weeks.
They look
It is.
great.
It is though. They've just gotten timely interceptions, and they've gotten interceptions on their side of the field. So Tannehill's had to go about 30 yards to make the game a 2 to 3 score game early, and then they've just coasted. They can't run the ball at all. And I just don't trust Tannehill. Nothing that they've done in the last 3 to 4 weeks, if you've actually watched the games, looks all that impressive. They should have lost to the Colts. They arguably could have lost to the Saints and Trevor Siemian last week.
Yeah, they pounded the Rams though. They made Matthew Stafford's life miserable in Los
But
Angeles.
to me, that's the story of Stafford's entire career. Either he looks amazing or he looks absolutely terrible. And if he's looking terrible, any team can beat them, aka the Lions for the last 8 years, however long he's been there before the Rams. So I don't know. The team that I think has the two teams that I think have the highest upside are the Packers, just because their defense has been insane and Rodgers is going to get rolling on all cylinders again. And the Cardinals, assuming they get healthy. I was not a big believer of the Cardinals going into the year, but they're winning. I mean, obviously not this past week, but winning without Kyler, winning without Hopkins. This team has been incredible when they've been rolling on all cylinders. Now, you can make the argument that Kyler hasn't been healthy since he's been in the league, but they're, to me, the most flashy, fun team to watch.
I mean, I'll go with you there, I suppose. I just can't make any sense out of any of it right now. And so, you have these games, they just don't make any sense at all. The 49ers lose to Colt McCoy and the Cardinals at home 2 weeks ago. And Colt McCoy shreds them. And then the Cardinals come out this week with Colt McCoy, and they can't do anything against the Panthers, who got their doors blown off of them the week before by the Patriots. And then you come out this last week, and the Bills score 45 against the Jets, who have a better defense than the Jaguars, and they scored 6 the week before. And the Browns, who looked unbelievable the week before, lose by 38 points to the Patriots and a rookie quarterback. The Falcons, who looked great the week before, lose by 40 to the Cowboys. Tampa Bay loses to Washington.
The Heineke looked like Walter Payton. Walter Payton. That's not what I was going for.
I'm certainly not.
Montana, whoever you want to compare him to, but Heineke's been horrendous all year, horrible. And he looks amazing. And
but then, the one that makes the least sense, last week, 2 weeks ago, the Broncos go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys to death.
Yep.
I mean, just kill them. And then lose at home to the Eagles by 17 this week. Like, what am I supposed to do with all these scores? I don't have any idea what to do.
Well, and the Patriots have arguably looked like the best team in the NFL for the past 5 to 6 weeks.
Yep. So I don't know.
And you still have the Chiefs. Who knows?
Who just laid it on the Raiders last week. So
in fairness, though, Mahomes probably should have thrown 5 interceptions. He just got really, really lucky last week. To me, and there were a lot of people saying Mahomes is back, the Chiefs are back, blah, blah, blah. Their defense is still terrible. They still didn't run the ball, and Mahomes got really, really lucky, in my opinion. He's still been incredibly reckless.
He has been sloppy, and that was why he went lower in the draft then, because at Texas Tech he was really sloppy a lot. I mean, the arm talent was never in question, and athleticism. But yeah, I mean, he's had seasons recently where he only threw like 5-6 interceptions, and he's just turning the ball over like crazy. So yeah, who knows? I mean, you got some really interesting games coming up, and we get to see really what all those teams are going to be up to. So the Rams get a bye at the right time this week, but I think if we're going to take the Chiefs seriously, they have to beat the Cowboys this week, or at least their offense has to look like it did last week, without the mistakes. So the one thing I did want to mention also with the NFL, it was a couple weeks of pretty dark stories. You have the Aaron Rodgers stuff, which I'm not going to litigate on here, for obvious reasons. The Henry Ruggs stuff, which is much, much worse.
Oh man, did you see any of those videos of the security cam?
I have not watched them on purpose. I don't like to watch something where I know someone died in real life if I can avoid it. I have seen a lot of people get really upset on social media about the media making a bigger deal out of the Rodgers thing than the Henry Ruggs thing. We all know what Henry Ruggs did was much worse. It's just that Henry Ruggs is a guy that no one really cares about. Aaron Rodgers is a legitimate celebrity.
Well, and Rodgers is playing in the NFL the next week, and you're never going to see Ruggs again.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. And you shouldn't. So yeah, I read an article the other day. It said Aaron Rodgers sucks and has always sucked, and it is pretty clear that he's just not a great person in any way. He's estranged from his family. It would appear it's probably because of him. He has thrown a lot of teammates under the bus in years past. So one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen, not one of the best humans. So so we can cross off my NFL is impossible point to I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with fantasy football. I don't know what to do with regular anything. You can't really count on. I mean, if you can't count on the Buccaneers to beat the Washington football team and the Cowboys to take care of the Broncos at home, like I don't know what to. There's just no way to judge any of it. Bills and Jags, like come on.
I mean, you look at the top 11 in standings right now, and it basically goes Packers to Patriots. The only team that I would be shocked if they went to the Super Bowl would be the Steelers in that entire list. I mean, you've got Ravens we haven't talked about, Bucks that I didn't have in my list. Yeah, it's a lot of parity. It's going to be really fun in the playoffs this year, I think.
Yeah. So really, you just got to get in. I mean, I think that's really the truth is you get in and I mean, it feels like as the winter approaches and comes, we'll probably have. I mean, you're already seeing it. Like the Chargers. Who do the Chargers play this week? Chargers. Sorry, this is not great content, everyone. But Chargers Steelers. There's a whole bunch of guys out for COVID on both teams that are like important guys on.
Yeah, Bosa today.
And it feels like as the winter comes in these cold weather places, it's going to get worse and worse there. So it could be all over the place.
You could make the opposite argument though, in that the winter's going to come and people are going to stop going outside. You'll have less person-person contact, and you may see a decrease in that. But
what I have read is that it tends to happen more because everything happens inside in the winter, and so you have more inside contact because we know the science now. It's really hard to contract COVID outside. Ultimately, but inside is a whole different story. So anyhow, we're not going to talk about that anymore. All right. Let's get into the NBA, and I'll shoehorn in my NBA stuff.
Wait, can our next topic not be COVID corner? We get about 6 more hours.
No, I'm not doing any more of that, honestly. I'm worn out by it.
All right, fair.
So tell me about your NBA thoughts. I know you want to talk about some teams that have started fast and some that have started slow. It's really interesting looking at standings right now.
Yeah, so it's been a really fun NBA year.
Fun fact, listeners, do you know the number one team in the Eastern Conference right now? I think you know, but if you're listening to this podcast, see if you can think about it for a second without looking. Kyle, who is the number one team currently in the Eastern Conference?
Is it the Wizards right now?
It's the Washington Wizards.
The Wizards, almost Bullets.
Yeah, almost Bullets, 10-3. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just been a really interesting year as far as parity is concerned, because you've had so many guys miss with injuries. I mean, you look at the Bucks; they're 12th in the East right now, 11th in the East right now, and to me, they're still probably the safest bet to come out of the East. The Nets have looked really, really good of late, but I don't know. Do you want to do like our biggest surprises here and then biggest letdowns?
Yeah, well, I think that you could go biggest surprises either way.
Yeah. To me, the biggest one has been the Wizards. And if you look back at that trade that they made to get Kuzma and everybody else on that team, I mean, Beal hasn't even been good. This team's, and they haven't had Thomas Bryant at all this year. What's his name? The guy from Japan that they after
Hachimura?
No, Hachimura. Yep.
Yeah, from Gonzaga.
But they have like 15 guys that are legit rotation players on this team.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue into one of my points. Speaking of teams, the Lakers aren't good. Now, LeBron's only played a handful of games, and they're much better when he plays. They're 8-7. They're 7th in the West. The thing is, there's probably only 9 teams in the West that can make the playoffs. So they're probably fine as far as getting to the playoffs, and they have Davis and LeBron, and who knows what will happen. But here's the truth. The only thing that's really stood in the way of LeBron James, the player, in his career is LeBron James, the GM. That Russell Westbrook trade is a travesty.
Oh, yeah.
If you have him and Davis and you sign a couple of the guys they signed and just keep Kuzma, Caruso, even you can get rid of Harrell. Who cares? He's not important.
Harrell's been incredible this year.
I know, but he can't play in the playoffs. You don't care about him really. But they need wings and to play defense.
As a LeBron-led team, you need guys to carry your team in the regular season because you need him to be fresh for the playoffs. I mean, you see the injuries are finally catching up to him, and you lose. I mean, they lost literally an entire rotation in that trade.
Yeah,
and you brought in a terrible player.
Yes, a player that's going to submarine your season. So who's untradeable? I mean, they just don't have any outs now. There's no flexibility at all. And so, I mean, you can see they've traded a nucleus to a team that no one thought was good, and the Wizards are 10-3. Mm-hmm. And Caruso has been a really important piece for the Bulls, who are another one of the, they're 10-4, second in the East. Mm-hmm. He's been really important for them because they lost Patrick Williams. But I just don't see it. I don't think there's any way it turns around. You have LeBron, who's in year 19, probably just past his prime period. And that's unbelievable that we're saying probably in year 19, he's past his prime. Anthony Davis is made of glass and honestly, mentally, I think pretty weak. Russell Westbrook is a losing player. The end. I don't need to give you any more analysis. He's a losing player. I sent you a stat that someone tweeted that he has taken so many threes to tie or take the lead in his lifetime, shooting on those 19%. And then and Russillo, who I retweeted it from, said seems high. He's not a winning basketball player. He plays bad defense and he takes abhorrent shots. And he when it's good, it's really good, but it's not really good all that often. And especially now that he's lost a step. So I think the Lakers are cooked, and it's I like LeBron. It's too bad because the West is wide open. Which leads us to our surprise West team, which of course is
the Warriors.
Golden State Warriors at 11-2 without Klay Thompson.
And without getting anything from their draft picks in the last 2 years.
3 high first-round picks. They don't play. But they are assets if they want them to be.
Correct. Yeah, this team, I think they're probably a trade away from what you're actually going to see in the final playoffs. But the problem is they've also played a really, really kick schedule. They've played a lot of games at home. You're going to learn a lot about the Warriors in the next basically 2 weeks. They just lost their first regulation game 2 nights ago. And the thing is, though, Steph is not even actually scoring at that crazy of a clip. He's not shooting that well. Really just sucking everything away. But yeah, I don't think they're an 11-2 continuation for the rest of the year, but this is a over 500 team and honestly has a pretty good chance to win the West. The other team is the Suns that I think has a really good chance to win the West. And then everything else is a huge drop off to me.
Yeah.
The Jazz, I could see making a jump just because they've shot so terribly and are still 8-5 somehow. But yeah, I mean, you touched on the Lakers. There's not really even reinforcements coming there. Taylor Horton Tucker hasn't played and Wayne Ellington hasn't played. But other than getting LeBron back and healthy.
Kendrick Nunn.
Who cares, though? Has Kendrick Nunn made the Heat better in 2 years? Not really.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just depends if they can find a rotation that they trust. Because, they played Bazemore for a ton at the beginning, and now he played DNP, coach's decision, last night. Mm-hmm. They just have a bunch of guys that aren't really trustworthy night to night. And you traded a bunch of those guys away for a guy who thinks he's one of the 10 best players in the NBA, but probably is in the top 30 at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, you want to stay on the kind of the negative. Whatever's happening in New Orleans is a disaster. Zion,
so
I saw some stuff today that they're not sure. I mean, it could be a long time yet.
Oh, he has a Jones fracture, and he's 200 pounds overweight. So it's like if
200 overweight,
and you add a couple hundred pounds there, and he looks terrible in commercials with Zach LaVine playing video games on the couch, much less even sniffing an NBA court.
It's true.
And that seems so bad. And David Griffin, is that David Griffin their GM?
Yeah.
Should be fired. He's literally made moves that I would expect the computer to suggest to me in 2K, 10 years ago before there was any AI. It's unbelievable if you look at what he's done to that team. And they got rid of all the picks that they traded Drew Holiday for, and they got in the Anthony Davis. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. And what do you have to show for it?
Nothing.
Valanciunas, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's terrible. If you ever watch those games, he's not actually good at all. And Lonzo Ball was the best player in that trade.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, Lonzo and Drew Holiday, like, can you imagine two guys better to pair with Zion Williamson?
It
And
would be
they
terrifying. And
sent them out.
instead you brought in Bledsoe, who was clearly going to be a disaster. You brought in Steven Adams, who clearly doesn't space the floor at all. Valanciunas does a little bit, but he can't. He's not your defensive anchor, and Zion has proven over and over again he's not going to contest the rim at all. So
No.
I don't even see with Zion coming back that team's any good. Now they're not as bad as the Rockets, who are the worst team I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, the only other team in the Western Conference that I would say I was a little surprised with, although I don't know that I should have been, is how bad the Blazers have looked. Their defense is awful. Nurkic looks like he's playing in quicksand. Dame hasn't hit a shot all year. Yeah, that team's not very good. But
yeah, I mean, I think there's 5 teams that are definitively going to make the playoffs in the West: Warriors, Suns, Mavericks, Nuggets, Jazz. And then there are 4 teams for 3 spots: Clippers, Lakers, Grizzlies, Blazers. And the Lakers and the Grizzlies and the Blazers are mediocre. The Clippers are also mediocre, but Paul George has been awesome. And Reggie Jackson continues to seem like the playoffs were just going to kind of the start of something instead of a blip. Morant has been awesome for the Grizzlies, but he's not getting a ton of help. And you're right. Portland was never going to play any defense, so they're not going to hit shots that there's not happening. So to me, they're the team that probably falls out because if LeBron comes back, the Lakers are still going to win 60% of their games always.
Yep.
But are they a formidable team to get through the playoffs in 4 rounds with those old guys? And I don't think so. I mean, Carmelo has been their most clutch player this season. Carmelo is old,
but
and he runs slower than anything.
Did you watch him try to guard DeRozan?
Well, he can't.
Game against the Bulls the other night.
He couldn't guard DeRozan in his prime, much less now.
But they just hunted him. And any good team, if you actually have wings that can score, are just going to hunt Melo, which is
he's got to be there. He's got to be a bench unit. I mean, he has to play. He has to be instant offense for 6-minute stretches. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
You leave him out here against teams that know what they're doing. There's just no chance. There's no way. And that's the problem. Is the Lakers traded away all the guys that can really match up with wings, and you get into playoff series against some of these guys. Like, who on the Lakers is going to guard Michael Porter Jr.? Like, who's going to guard, Luka and Devin Booker? And I mean, then obviously the Warriors, forget about it. So I don't know. Now, granted, on the Warriors, who's going to guard all the Lakers guys if they're healthy?
Iggy.
No. So
Iggy
anyhow, but if you go to the East, there are some real disappointments. I mean, the Hawks are 6-9.
Yep.
The Bucks are 6-8, but have been hurt. The Celtics
they played without 3 of their best players the whole year.
I'm not worried about
to actually be 6-8 is incredible. I love the Celtics being bad. It just completely makes my year.
Yeah, me too.
But the Cavs are the feel-good story of the East right now, though, outside of the Wizards.
Yeah, for sure. 9-6. Mobley's out 2 to 4 weeks, though.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Which is a bummer because we can segue shortly into our rookie redraft. But Mobley is a revelation. And the Cavs, I mean, it's been noted on a podcast we listen to that they're better when Sexton doesn't play, because it just kind of they have professional players. Sexton's one of those guys. He's really like Russell Westbrook light, where it's like, boy, the tools are incredible, but from a trying to win games standpoint, it's not there.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of ugly Cavs games when you're going to see a lot of Cedi Osman and D Wade, and not the D Wade that you want. It's Dean, and he's not.
Cedi had a good game last night, though. He had like 26 points. So yeah, the Cavs are going to be frisky, but they'll be near the bottom. And so the interesting thing is you've got honestly probably 12 teams in the East that can actually make the playoffs. The Pistons definitely can't. The Magic definitely can't. And
the Pacers maybe.
We don't. Well, that's the thing. The Pacers were in my 12, so it might be 13. Right now, the order is Wizards, Bulls, Nets, Heat. Those teams are all going to make the playoffs. Cavs, who knows? Knicks, they'll be feisty. They always are.
Yeah.
76ers, good segue if we want to. Hornets, Celtics, Raptors, Bucks, Hawks. I mean, there are legitimate 12 teams for sure that are going to fight for those spots. Some of which, because they're going to underachieve and they shouldn't have to fight for the spots, and some of which are so well coached, like the Raptors and the Hornets and the Knicks, that they're just going to fight for the spots anyways.
And the Raptors are just apparently going to roll out the all 6-11 lineup at some point, which is going to be super fun to watch. Now that Siakam's back, 6'9" to 6'11" for your entire starting lineup is certainly possible.
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, you do have a little Freddie VanVleet, who's certainly not big. But all right, well, let's do this. I'm gonna do my Ben Simmons thing for a minute, and then we're gonna redraft this year's draft, which is way too early, but we don't care. And I'm sure we're gonna have the same guy going number one. But well, my phone just died, so it's gonna be harder for me. But anyhow, here's my thing on Ben Simmons. I think Joel very eloquently, I don't know if you ended up listening to that podcast that Joel and I did, he very eloquently put that a lot of times these situations involve mental health. And I agree with that. And I think we've probably done a bad job for the most part in our country dealing with mental health. I don't think that's even a probably. It's a definitely. I mean, you look at how little we provide to veterans coming back from wars and who have like legitimate mental health, like disastrous situations in their life. The Ben Simmons thing, I won't use the word I use with you on text. He's just a turd. There's no other way to put it. It's not a mental health issue. He's just kind of a pitiful guy. And he is really selfish, and he really wants to look cool, and he really wants to have an image of something that you can only have through really hard work and really grinding through stuff. And I don't think he has an interest in working hard to get where he wants to get. I think he just wants it to be given to him. And so when a team provides you mental health professionals and you won't go to them, but you're not going to play because you have mental health issues, like, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'll honor any of that kind of stuff. We all got stuff going on, but if you're not willing to receive help, but you want to be treated preferentially anyways and be given your game checks for not showing up for your team, I'm sorry, I'm out on that. Like, at a certain point, your actions really do matter, even if you are going through stuff. Like, I've mentioned this to you, a third grade teacher who's got a class full of just terrors, who definitely is going to have some days that are like nearly impossible, doesn't just get to be like, you know what, I'm not going to show up for months because this is really hard and I'd like it to be easier. Like, I'm sorry, at a certain point, you take some responsibility for what's going on, and he's brought most of this on himself. And so maybe I should have more compassion. I have none compassion for Ben Simmons. And I hope they donate his game checks to people who do actually have real mental health issues. And because it's something it's certainly gotten worse, not better, during the last year and a half for the average person in the United States and around the world. And so I would, help people who really need help. Stop spending time on Ben Simmons. Cut him, do whatever, get rid of. I'm tired of him, and I'm tired of us even catering to his nonsense with like the media. And we're not the media. Like, let's be clear, this podcast is not the media. But
credentials over here.
As I wax on and on and on about it, I say I'm tired of people talking about this, like the LeVar Ball stuff back in the day. But speaking of someone who probably has some mental health issues, I don't know. I'm just over it. I think he's just a bad person, and his track record is to quit anytime it gets hard, and I'm out. Those characteristics are just of someone who I have no respect for, and that's it. I'm done with Ben Simmons. We can do our redraft now. Do you want to add anything?
So, similar to COVID Corner, talking about this young socialite Ben Simmons is not my favorite topic. To me, he's he's stuck at this point, though. If he's actually claiming mental illness, you can't just unclaim mental illness. So get treatment, get yourself taken care of, and then go back to your job. I mean, I don't enjoy my job right now. I hate recruiting in healthcare. There's no one to recruit. I had a commitment to my work, so I'm still there, and I respect the person I work for, and I highly doubt any of them will listen to this podcast, but like my coworkers, don't like what I do. I'm still there. I'm still collecting that paper.
Stacking it up.
I'm doing some work at least. Yeah. So I don't have a ton of respect for how he's handled it. I mean, you're under contract. It's not like you're just showing up and getting paid hourly for the work that you're doing. I mean, show up and honor your teammates and be a little more transparent about it. Don't just say, I just want to go to LA. I'm not a big fan, but there have to be teams that a trade would make sense. But the problem is that he's just destroyed and tanked his trade value so much that what do you do if you're Daryl Morey?
Yeah. Well, and I will say this, I tend to be much more pro player than pro owner. there's about to be probably a work stoppage in the major leagues, and the tendency is for people to say, well, like, who do those guys think they are making that much money? They need more money. But it's like, well, so we're taking the side of billionaires who won't even have a payroll that makes their team
and
competitive.
won't
Like,
and
I
won't
don't want
pay
to
minor
hear
league
that. Yeah,
players. Won't pay
at
minor league players a
all.
working a
Won't give
living
them
wage even
housing.
close. Yep.
So
Because
like,
they're getting life experiences by
yeah.
traveling around to the minors. That's crap.
So
Yep.
like, I'm pro player almost always, but in this instance, I'm really happy that finally a GM was like, no, you signed a contract to be here for 4 more years. You can either honor the contract, you can not get paid. Like, that's how the rest of our lives work. That's how real people's lives go. Like, if I just stop showing up at the church, and, and I've done more excellent work at the church than Ben Simmons has done in the playoffs, I'll freaking tell you that. And they would tell me to kick rocks. Like, we'll see you later. You come into work, or you. And so, in this instance, I'm pro them finally an NBA team sticking up to somebody and being like, call your bluff. You're not going to not collect $100 million. Like, come to work. So anyhow, we can be done with this, but I appreciate your point on it because it's a good one. All right. You're on the clock. The Detroit Pistons with the #1 pick. You get to have watched the last 15 games. Who are you picking?
Do we want to run through the top 10 for people that are not staring at the draft list real quick?
Here's how it was. And honestly, after the top 10, there hasn't been a lot of guys making much of an impact. So, and
there are a couple guys I really do like, though, that I think are going to be good. But yeah, go ahead.
So the first pick was Cade Cunningham. Pistons, Cade Cunningham. Rockets, Jalen Green. Cavs, Evan Mobley. Raptors, Scotty Barnes. Magic, Jalen Suggs. Thunder, Josh Giddey. Warriors, Kuminga. Magic, Franz Wagner. Kings, Davion Mitchell. Pelicans, Zaire Williams, who was traded to the Grizzlies. And then Bouknight, Primo, Duarte, Moody, Kispert round out the top 15. All right, if you are the Pistons and you're on the clock with the first pick right now, who do you pick?
Yeah, it's Mobley. I don't even – it's hard to debate it.
No.
Yeah. He's been insane. And this has been hammered over and over again in the podcast that I'm sure you listen to as well, but you can find guards everywhere. Now, you don't find elite guards everywhere, but it's really, really hard to find a big man that can play in small ball NBA. And honestly, he's basically Kevin Garnett with handles. Yeah. It's fun to watch.
See, this is the thing. The Warriors, I think, messed us all up on this. But if you look at the teams that have won the finals or have really been there at the end in the last several seasons since the Warriors, here's your guys: Giannis, Durant, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. These are not guards. These are gigantic, formerly power forward and centers who now play like stretch fours and stuff.
Or big men that play like guards.
Yeah.
Big men that handle the ball, that can roll, that can handle the ball and pick and roll. And that all those guys are like
6'8" and bigger.
Yep.
Who can handle. And Mobley is going to become that. But he's also like, I saw a stat, average projected, that's wrong. Average contested shots per game this season. Person in second had like 12.1. Mobley is at 14.4. He's just everywhere. And so it's just not close. I didn't like Cade Cunningham in college. Now, in fairness, I was arguing that Jalen Suggs should have been taken over him, and that's apparently really not true.
Correct.
But Mobley is it's like, it's not close right now. Now, this is 15 games into season one. It's not. We could come back to this in 2 years and be like, well, that was stupid. But to me, he's like a sure thing, like a sure thing to be an absolute first or second team All-NBA guy at a certain point. So Steve Bachman, if you're listening to this, I'm just going to let you know there will be a lot of Evan Mobley rookie cards sitting in our closet for a while because he's not putting up a ton of points. I think people don't quite understand like how impactful he already is and I think eventually you're going to look at it like 25, 12, and 4 blocks. Like, I think that's what you're looking at with him.
He's the best player on a Cavs team that is 2 games over 500 and that won 3 games over 500 and that won like 20 games last year.
Yeah, and didn't get better besides him.
No, I mean you
It's just
got
it.
Lauri Markkinen, I guess. Hardly played in COVID
Yeah,
protocol. Yeah.
yeah. He's just
Rubio.
he's made the whole team. It's just that, and Kevin Garnett was out for the Timberwolves for a long time. Where it's like, well, this team is not any good, except they have Kevin Garnett,
Yeah.
and he just covers so much stuff up. So, all right,
But him and Jared Allen, can you imagine trying to take the ball in the paint with Jared Allen and Mobley in there? It just would be terrifying.
it's not going well for a lot of teams. So here's where it gets tricky. Who would you take second if you're the Rockets?
I gotta take Cade.
I think I would too, although I think the Rockets might still take Jalen Green. He's been really uneven so far. Athletically, it's like, whoa. But I think I agree with you. And if I were the Rockets, I'd take Cade Cunningham, or I'd take a long look at Scotty Barnes. A long look. Because I think we would agree that Scotty Barnes should be the third pick in a redraft.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it gets
take him over Green.
Yeah, I think I would too. I think I said on this podcast, or maybe to you on the phone, it might have just been on the phone. I've seen guys like Green come out over and over and over again, and they just don't win. He's just a me first, me guy. And every once in a while it works. Kobe, it worked. But Jalen Green's not Kobe Bryant.
No.
The shot making is not the same.
To me, he's Zach LaVine, where it's going to take a while for him to actually be impactful on both ends of the court. I mean, you haven't seen Zach LaVine play defense until the Olympics last year, and now the Bulls are good, and he actually looks
and he
great.
plays defense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it depends what you need. Boy, the Cavs. Imagine the Cavs having to go, oh, we get one of these guards that we don't need. I mean, just them getting Mobley at 3 is huge, and they've won how many lotteries in the 2000s, and then to get the best guy in a really good draft at the third pick is remarkable. So does that mean Green goes 4?
I don't know. To me, Scotty Barnes, I love Scotty Barnes. He's been insane. He's probably been the second best rookie in this draft, but I also think going to Toronto was huge for him. I mean, he goes into a really smart system that's going to maximize his skill set. They're not asking him to do anything with the ball in his hands. I mean, it's all insane defense and fast breaks, and he's not going to shoot. I don't know that he'll ever shoot, but boy, would I love to have him on my favorite NBA team.
Yeah, well, and the truth is, Green and Cunningham's ceiling is they're both higher than Scotty Barnes, but the floor is also quite a bit lower, I think. Scotty Barnes is already like, oh, I know what he's going to be, and he's going to be a good NBA player for a long time. We already know.
It's going to be better Siakam, basically.
Yeah. So, and boy, is he a force on defense, too. That's the thing with him and Mobley. They come in right away. And they only played 1 year in college. It's not like they played a whole bunch of years. So, yeah, that's where it gets. So the top 4, we have the same, just in a little different order. And then this gets really interesting. If you're the Magic, knowing what you know now, do you still pick Suggs or do you pick someone else?
I think I take Giddey at 5. I really like what I've seen out of him. Yeah, I think so.
Problem is the Magic really don't need another guy like Giddey. It's just another big wing. They have so many of them.
But that's what Franz is too.
It's true. It's
true.
I
mean, Giddey can play the point. Do you actually like any of their point guards?
No, I don't like anything the Magic have at all, basically, except Franz.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that puts Giddey at
Franz
5.
At 6. Go ahead.
I think I don't know. I don't know if I can quit Jalen Suggs. I think if I'm the Thunder and Jalen Suggs is on the board and I'm rebuilding, I think that's who I pick. Franz, I think everybody kind of knew what Franz was going to be. You're not going to, he'll never be a superstar or an all-star probably. He's going to be a really, really nice rotation player.
What he would be is the perfect pick for the freaking Warriors. And I don't understand the Kuminga pick here, other than that they think he's a higher trade asset, I guess. But, I mean, he hasn't really played at all. Maybe he will be good by the end of the year. But I think Franz has got to be 7th then.
Oh, definitely. And the thing that's too bad for the Warriors, which, I mean, I don't know why we're feeling bad for a team that's about to be 12-2, but The next guy I picked too, Davion Mitchell, would have been a great fit for them as a lockdown defender, a guy who scored more than I think people thought he would for the Kings, who are
not shooting the ball well, but
who are sneaky, interesting, but also as usual, really mediocre still.
Yeah, but if you look at their splits with their defensive rating, which is much better than it was last year, still like 22nd, I think, but they're like the fourth or fifth best offense in the league, and yeah, I like Mitchell. He's also got no wingspan, so he's not really guarding up at all.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think he's probably the 8th pick.
And then that, eventually we swing back around to Kuminga and again, most of the other guys like Sengun, Duarte, Bouknight, they're probably all going to do stuff eventually.
But Duarte's been insane. Duarte has been really, really good.
But he's like your age.
He's fairly old, right?
Well, 24.
31. Jeez.
Yeah, he's 24 already. I'm not saying Mobley's 5 years younger than him. I mean, that's the truth. But yeah, he's been good. And then there's some other guys in here that have a real chance to be decent, but we just don't really know yet. So, and then there are a couple guys taken in the second round that have done some things like
guys looking through it here.
Herb Jones and
I actually kind of like, speaking of Raptors picks, I kind of like Delano Banton out of Nebraska. Speaking of a guy that can't shoot at all, but just another 6'7" wing that can defend.
Yeah, the Raptors have plenty of those guys, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's probably enough NBA. People are going to be annoyed. But listen, it's exciting. It's going to be a weird season because we really don't have – I mean, I did want to mention the Nets. I mean, I have loved the new rule changes and James Harden taking a long, long time to get into shape and figure it out. But the fact of the matter is they're rolling off wins now, and Harden's playing better. And if they get Kyrie back at any point, which I'm not sure that they're going to, but – holy smokes, that team, they're terrifying still. And I hate it. That's all. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. All right. We can actually, you said you had Crow facts today, right?
Oh, I do have Crow facts. Yep.
All right. Fire them up. Come on.
Okay. So Wolves and Ravens have a special relationship. When Ravens find, which we're going to call Ravens crows, good enough. It's COVID, whatever. When they find a dead animal, they make a lot of noise to draw attention to wolves. The wolves then open up the hide and provide the carry-on for the Ravens. So basically, the Ravens are making noise, so somebody chews their food for them first. The Ravens then interact and often will be seen playing with wolf pups, which has got to be the coolest thing of all time. And experts think that the individual ravens often develop special bonds with the individual wolves within a pack, and they'll follow them around like for the rest of their lives.
That is wild. I want my own raven.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Huh. That is very cool, actually. That's very interesting. So basically, we could just make this podcast all about ravens and crows, and it would probably be better. That's
more
what
educational,
I'm
at least. Yeah, I found an awesome article. I've got about 15 more weeks Crow facts.
So excellent. People are going to be pumped about that. What they're not going to be pumped about is I just switched us into gallery view. So sorry, everyone. Some screens swapping back and forth over and over again. Killing it. And I'm out of practice. It's been a long time. So, all right. We pretty much talked through our football and basketball stuff. I'm sure we've got more rattling around in our heads. If you had to pick a finals matchup right now, what would you pick?
Talking NBA?
Yes.
I'm going to go Nets. And I'm going to say the Warriors make a trade, and it's Nets-Warriors. And Nets-Warriors with probably like Siakam and Van Vliet somehow.
Interesting. That would be a fun finals, and I would be cheering for the Warriors. I can tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I would go. I mean, it's hard to pick against the Nets. I guess it's Nets, and I'm going to take the Suns to get back there. There you go. Worry about the Warriors' health. But I was looking at some of our over and under picks for for the NFL this year. We both went under the Arizona Cardinals at 8.5, so that's good. Joel did take the over on that. We all took the over on the Pats. We all took the under at 9.5 on the Cowboys.
Ooh.
So that's not great. We all took the under on the Washington football team. Good job by us. Anyhow, just an interesting look. We both took the under on the Panthers. That's probably going to go over. And then we both took the under on the Bengals, and that's probably going to go over for sure because it was only 6.5. So anyhow, just some stuff to think about. We both took the under on the Lions, so we can take a victory lap on that. 5 wins. Holy smokes. It's one of the worst NFL games I've ever seen, by the way. Lions, Rams. All right. Major League Baseball. For those of you that don't know, December 2nd looks like it's going to be a work stoppage of some kind because there has been no progress on a new CBA. As someone who sells baseball cards, that is really dicey for me. As long as they get it sorted out by spring training, it will be fine. But I have my doubts. There's real animosity both ways. And like Kyle's talking about, some stuff has come to light about what owners are doing with minor league baseball players. It's like truly egregious. And so it's going to take some significant overhaul of some stuff for them to get back together. So yeah, that's something to watch. And baseball's not in a great place, especially if it decides to lock its players out for a while. I have real concerns about that. But from an awards standpoint, Kyle, you saw the Rookie of the Year was announced yesterday.
Mm-hmm. We saw the NL. Did a Rosarena win? Okay.
Rosarena and Jonathan India, which was pretty obvious by the end of the season. That's what's going to be. Did you see Manager of the Year was posted today?
I did not. Kapler?
You want to guess? It was Gabe Kapler, which was an absolute, had to be close to unanimous in the National League.
Was it Kevin Cash?
It was Kevin Cash again for the second year in a row in the AL.
I think it could have been and probably should have been Scott Service.
Of the Mariners.
Of the Mariners, yep.
Yeah, they had a really great run at the end of the year. And I think you could even make an argument for A.J. Hinch, who took that Tigers team who has no talent to almost 80 wins. It pains me to say it because I hate the Detroit Tigers. But yeah, I mean, Gabe Kapler was going to win. Won 105 games with the Giants, and still nobody knows how. We still don't know. Be studied by scientists for hundreds of years. No one knows. But yeah, AL a little more wide open. But who you got for MVP? That has not been announced yet.
I think it's got to be Ohtani. As much as I want it to be Vlad Guerrero, it's literally the best combo year we've had since Babe Ruth.
Has to be.
I don't see how you can go against it.
If Vlad hadn't cooled down in the second half, I think we'd had a real race. But they both definitely struggled to the finish line. But one of them also has like a bunch of wins and strikeouts as a pitcher. So that's going to be that. How about the National League? It's a much trickier situation.
I hope
none of the best candidates made the playoffs.
I hope it's Soto. It might be Harper.
I hope it's Soto too. You want to know why? Because that makes me way more money than if Harper wins. I am heavily invested in Juan Soto stuff. But yeah, I think the narrative may push it towards Harper because it's been a long time since he had a year like that. And Soto, I think the thinking often is like, this guy's going to do this for years and years and years, which is probably true. The other guy that can even win it is Tatis, who didn't play a lot down the stretch. So,
and speaking of San Francisco, Brandon Crawford should get some votes, second or third place, probably third or fourth place. But
he was really good. And Buster Posey,
Gold Glover.
Buster Posey, who retired. We obviously haven't covered which. He's really young, but I read some quotes by him, and basically it's like, look, my body cannot take this anymore, and I'd like to be with my family and still be able to move my legs when I'm 50. So more power to him. What a way to go out. Kind of makes me feel bad that they didn't beat the Dodgers, if we're being honest. But he's got 3 rings. He's okay. And a really interesting debate, Kyle. Do you think Buster Posey can make the Major League Hall of Fame.
How many years did he play? Like 12-ish?
He came
13?
up in 2010. You want to guess how many career hits he has?
Oh, don't make me do that.
Oh, just come on. Give me a guess.
3,000.
No, exactly half that many. 1,500 career hits. He's a career 302 hitter, 158 homers.
I would have guessed higher on home runs.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of injury stuff there for a while. Although in just some really, really down years. He opted out of last season. 2018, he played 105 games. 2019, he played 114 games. It hasn't been awesome for a while until this season. 2017, he hit 320 in 140 games. That was his last really good year. But even then, he only had 12 home runs that season in 140 games. This year in 113 games, he had 18 home runs.
But he really is the definitive catcher of this 10-year stretch, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, who else would
since
you
Ivan
even
Rodriguez,
put in there?
it's him.
It's
Yadier Molina. Yadier Molina is the guy.
Yeah, that's true.
But like Molina, for instance, came up in 2004 and is still playing. I think this is going to be his last year. He's got 2,100 hits and 170 homers. His batting average is 20 points lower. But the amazing thing is, from a WAR standpoint, Posey is ahead of him at 44.1, Molina 42.1. And I think people feel like Molina is a no-brainer Hall of Famer, which I think I agree with that. But, Posey has an MVP. He has 3 rings. I think it's a real argument, at least.
You could argue the peak for Posey was much higher. Offensively, obviously.
Offensively, unbelievable. And then we can look at your boy Joe Mauer real quick, because I know you love him.
I don't like the end of Joe Mauer, though.
Well, no, but his WAR 55.2. He is quite a bit higher than both of them.
Well, speaking of peak, the peak of Joe Mauer was higher.
High.
That was insane.
Another MVP winner, 3-time Gold Glove, 5-time Silver Slugger, 3 batting titles, 306 career hitter. But it's one of those careers that's really uneven. Kind of went and stayed gone for a long time for him. So those are the 3 guys that are catchers that really have a chance to get in the modern era. And I don't know. I think Molina is the no-brainer of the 3, but somehow has the least WAR. So that's an interesting thing to look at. But both Molina and Posey have been great at really important points in the postseason, which I think helps them for sure. And then we have Cy Young. Those are tight races.
I hope it's Robbie Ray.
I think it should be Robbie Ray in the AL. And I think it might be Scherzer in the NL at this point. It's Scherzer, Wheeler,
Corbin Burns.
I think those are the 3.
Burns.
And Burns has the best non-traditional pitching stats of the 3 by a pretty wide margin. But traditional counting stats like strikeouts and wins and so on, Scherzer probably wins the award by a little bit. So anyhow, do you feel like the right team won the World Series?
I think so, probably.
You think so, probably?
Probably. How's that for some serious analysis there? It's been forever. I don't even remember watching these games at this point.
No, it's been a long, long time. My boss, Pastor Chris Akers, is a huge Atlanta Braves fan, so I was happy for him. I certainly was sad Ronald Acuna didn't get to play, but the fact that they didn't have him, they didn't have Mike Soroka.
Didn't have, what's his name, Ozuna.
Well, yeah, that's a different kind of didn't have, but yeah.
Still, I mean, you lose your entire outfield midway through the season. It's incredible.
And Acuna was legitimately the MVP frontrunner when he went down halfway through the year. And what's interesting is that's kind of when Freddie Freeman took off, and so he replaced a lot of those stats, and then Soler and Duvall and all those guys came in. Rosario, I mean, who was probably the MVP of the postseason, honestly. And listen, both of us have watched for him. Nothing. Both of us have watched Eddie Rosario on our teams, and let me tell you, it never was the experience what the Braves experienced in the NLCS. Let me tell you that right now.
Well, and offensively, he had some years on the Twins where he was their best offensive player if you look at just counting stats, but he strikes out a ton. He doesn't walk a ton, and he is a butcher. In the
Butcher. And
outfield.
that did show up a couple times in the playoffs.
He also tested positive for steroids in the minors right before he came up. So
yeah,
that.
Well, that all checks out too. But yeah, I certainly didn't want the Astros to win, and most of America didn't want the Astros to win. I have a few friends that did, and I feel somewhat bad for them because I like them, but mostly I don't, because the Astros got one they didn't deserve, and they probably more deserved this one, and I'm glad they didn't get it because of the one they got that they shouldn't have. So I was glad it wasn't the Red Sox. I was glad it wasn't the Astros. I had money on the Dodgers. They didn't do it for me. It's fine. And now that Buster Posey is retiring, I wish the Giants would have won, honestly. But the Braves, listen, we've talked about this on this podcast. If the Braves don't re-sign Freddie Freeman and become another team that's not actually trying to win, I will lose my mind. You win the World Series without your best player. You get him back. I would be so upset if they didn't re-sign Freddie Freeman and just have that infield be like, okay, Austin Riley, Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, and Dansby Swanson. That's our infield. We're going to be awesome. Acuna is going to play right field. We've got guys that can play center. We're going to be awesome. And then for 3 more years, the window is open. And then who knows what happens after that. Probably the end of Freeman's contract probably sucks for you. But the guy has been great for Atlanta from the minute he stepped on the field in 2011. Here's a great example. Everybody loves Bryce Harper, right? You know my hate for Bryce Harper. But they basically started playing at the same time. And Bryce Harper right now has 267 homers. His lifetime average is 279. His OPS is 916, which is nice. He has 40 WAR. Everybody, after he had that MVP season, was like, okay, here it comes. He's going to be incredible. Freddie Freeman, 271 home runs, lifetime batting average 295, OPS 893, 43.1 WAR. And if you've watched the games, you know that Harper has done tons of his damage in games that were not close. And his team's underachieved in the playoffs when he made it with the Nats. He's on a really talented team in Philadelphia, and they can't beat the Braves. And Freeman showed up in huge spots in the postseason again for the Braves this year. I don't know. I'd rather have him. And you could sign him for way less than the Phillies had to pay Bryce Harper. They're going to be paying Bryce Harper when he's like 60 years old. So, I don't know. Give him 6 years and let him go do his thing. How old do you think Freddie Freeman is?
9?
Huh?
31?
I think that's right. I don't know why I can't find his actual age here on baseballreference.com. This is very frustrating. Oh, there it is.
Content right here.
Yeah. All right.
I can't stop coughing, and we can't find.
Yeah. Well, listen. And we didn't switch it into, we got all kinds of
He's
stuff
32.
Yeah. So, yeah, he just turned 32. So, yeah, give him through age 38 and see what you can do. Ronald Acuna might be the best player in baseball by the end of that contract. And you go, we got him. We got Austin Riley, who was incredible this year, who's also not a good defensive player. Albies Swanson. It's a formidable team. You never know what you get from some of their young guys coming up, too. Get Soroka back. Max Fried, by the way, I want to mention one other thing. If someone had pulled me out of a game after 6 innings and I had thrown 56 pitches, and I was just cruising and we were up 6-0 in a big game, I would lose my mind. I don't know how Max Fried didn't lose his mind being pulled out of that game. He should have thrown a complete game. I don't know. I've never been disrespectful with coaches, but the only time with my college coach I was throwing a one-hitter through 8 innings. It was like 80-some pitches. It's like 9-0, and I got pulled out. And I let him know I was not thrilled about it. I'm certainly not Max Fried. It certainly wasn't the World Series. I don't know. I can't believe they pulled him out of that game. That's all.
Well, and they kept on going on and on about how smart it was by the Braves manager because you don't want to see him more than 2 to 3 times through the batting order, which I get. But at the same time, you've destroyed your bullpen all series. You've got a guy absolutely dealing in also, this is everything that's wrong with playoff baseball. Games are 4 hours long. They're starting basically at midnight, ending at 4 a.m. the next day. Because you're using your entire bullpen every single game. I'm so tired of it. They changed the rule that you're supposed to, whatever, 3 batters or whatever you're supposed to have to face now, and it's not solving anything at all.
No, it's pretty brutal. And it immediately Matzik gave up a hit, and then the next one guy hit a laser right at an outfielder. And I was like, oh, geez, this was a bad choice. But, I mean, obviously those guys that they brought in had been nails all postseason. Yeah. But still, give me one base runner at least. Like, I don't know. I'd have been really upset. So, anyhow, next week we'll put a bow on. We had picked a team at the start of the year of who we thought would be the best player at each position, and I need to go back and listen to that podcast and see how we did. I can tell you some of them are not great, but you know, it's okay. So, all right. Anything else major leagues wise you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so, really. Okay. Twins stink. Indians stink.
Yeah, our teams have no plans to be good anytime soon. One other thing I wanted to note, because I saw this and I thought it was really interesting on Twitter. Someone said, has there ever been an in-game like special effect thing that is designed specifically to make the viewer mad besides the fake strike zone that's put up in major league games? And because the ball's like this far outside of that little thing, and people think it's like egregious that the umpire calls it a strike or a ball. Yeah. And it's like, first of all, go back there and try to do that. And second of all, like, that's the beauty of the human element. It's like sometimes the outside corner is this much further, and everybody knows it after like the second inning. It's okay. As long as they're calling it that way, it's okay. Like, that box is always, height is really arbitrary depending on umpire, and like how do they, like, it's supposed to go up to the armpits, but no one calls the strike all the way up to the armpits unless it's like Jose Altuve. So like, that box is just like a suggestion, and it should be treated that way, and they should get rid of it. I think it actually takes away from the enjoyment of watching a game. You take that and you can say, like, you can only use 6 pitchers in a 9-inning game. Great, done, good enough for me. All right. Do you have anything failing? We didn't do things we hate today. You have anything you hate that you really want to get off your chest?
I've had a cough for like a month and a half, and I can't sleep because I just cough at night, and it's the worst. And I don't have COVID. Don't worry, anyone who's watching.
It could be long haul COVID.
It's truly the worst. Now I've been tested. It's truly the worst. I'm tired of it. It's what I hate.
Okay. I have some stuff on my mind, but none of which will be productive for me to share. So I am going to avoid the things I hate and tell you something I love. Mexican restaurants. Ate at one again tonight. It's so good. It's just the best. I could eat Mexican food every day. That's all. All right.
I got something I love then. Hot sauce. The hottest hot sauce you can find. I spent $90 on hot sauce this week, and I'm so excited to get that delivery in the mail. I'm just going to burn my face off. Amanda thinks I'm an idiot. She looked up this article. I'm sure it came from TikTok or something, so it wasn't an article, just some 12-year-old talking into their phone. But apparently your taste buds can't actually taste heat, like the spiciness in hot sauce. It's just pain receptors picking it up. So
nice.
I love hot sauce. I got some ghost pepper hot sauce coming in. We got some volcano pepper hot sauce coming in. Habanero. Yeah.
All right. Let's do, you got a family fiasco you want to share since it's been so many weeks? So we haven't really talked about any of this.
I've got about like 20 million, but one literally happened today. So we're going to go with that. So we've got some family coming to stay on Amanda's side. And I spent 40 minutes cleaning up the guest room this afternoon. We got the sheets washed. We got the comforter fluffed out. We got the whole bed made. Everything's white. Comforter's white. The sheets are white.
Ivy is going
chewing on a bone, and which is fine. She's probably not going to destroy the bed with a bone. And I walk in there, and there's a huge puddle of pee directly on top of the comforter. And it's in actually the room that I'm in right now, so I got to vacate it here in like half an hour. And it's soaked all the way through to the mattress. So I'm scrubbing the mattress. We've got to quickly wash everything. It's not going to be done. So sorry.
I had so much fun doing a friend fiasco a few weeks ago, in which Joel and I just acting like idiots, laughing through the end of the podcast. I have another one. This happened this Saturday. So, I run a soccer league, as some of you know, and a basketball league at the church I work at. And so Saturday morning, I've been noticing that I think that I've got rats in my soccer shed. So Saturday morning, I was like, moment of truth. We were done setting up about an hour early. I was like, we're going to see if these cardboard boxes back here have rats in them. So I took a broom, bang, hit the top box. Big rat jumps out. I was like, I hit it again, bang. Second big rat jumps out. I was like, I hit it a third time, nothing. I was like, okay.
Did you hit the rats or just
no? They went scurrying behind something. I could tell where they had bit a hole in the wood floor of the thing to get out.
Shit.
So, or vice versa. So I'm like, okay, now we got to deal with, like, we got to get stuff out of here so they don't have anywhere to live. And then I'm about to go move those boxes, and out of those boxes are little tiny eyes. And there are baby rats in the boxes. So it's like one box like down into another box. So I slide them into a big plastic tote. I pull that out with the broom. We dump over the two boxes to try to get the rats out of them, like flip them all the way over, because they're just little baby, like a really little baby rats.
Oh.
And they're very cute, actually, very cute. And
rats are super smart.
What you don't know is that those boxes were full of stuff for our what we call jelly bean jog, which is a color run where you spray powder at people of different colors to get them all colorful. So these poor little baby rats are covered in blue and green powder. So they're just scurrying around. They're covered in this powder. It's like great camouflage, actually. And so we evicted 2 parents and 15 baby rats out of our shed. And hopefully they're not back in there again. Gosh.
Did you just put them outside?
Well, we couldn't get them very far, so we had to dump the boxes over. And there's not, if you've ever been out, you have, but there's not really a lot of places to go with them that, like, they wouldn't end up like on the soccer field. So we put them like back behind, and then we like blocked off that area with chairs so people couldn't get back there in case we didn't want them to get whatever. But Emily was like, oh, I saw a couple of them trying to get back up the ramp later in the day when she was out there with the kids for the game. And I was like, oh gosh. So I don't know. We cleaned out the whole shed today, and there's no sign of them. So we had to throw away a ton of stuff. It was a place we were like, we would store leftover Gatorade and soda and stuff. And they're like trying to bite holes through them. So we had to throw away all that stuff. Papers, all kinds. It's just a mess. Just such a mess. So that's my family fiasco. And the guy that helped me, Nick, is really like my family. He's been on this podcast before. And so, yeah, that was a mess. But that was my family fiasco. All right. You got any recommendations?
Oh, so remember I've been sick, so I've watched a lot.
That's right.
So I got 2 screenshots here worth of movies and TV shows to recommend. So the first, and you have been asking me to watch this for a long time, and it was awesome. We watched it in one day. Only Murders in the Building. Fantastic.
Told you.
Season 2 coming out at some point soon, I hope. Now, this is not like a 10 out of 10 Game of Thrones, Westworld, but it is fantastic.
It's enjoyable.
It was great with the wife. So she enjoyed it, which is rare. We don't like the same things with TV often.
And it ends on a cliffhanger, which is kind of sucks, but
yeah, it was funny. All right, then went on a World War II kick. So we've got the Forgotten Battle, which was pretty good. We've got The Courier, which is Benedict Cumberbatch. Fantastic movie. He's a spy. That might have been World War I. I don't even know. Imitation Game, keeping on Benedict Cumberbatch. Then we rewatched Band of Brothers in the Pacific. Fantastic. I initially, first round around the Pacific, thought the Pacific was better. That's wrong. I mean, it's got Rami Malek in it. It's great, but Band of Brothers is by far better. Dunkirk. Dunkirk was great. And then we ventured into some sci-fi here. We've got I just said Dunkirk. Tenet, Christopher Nolan movie. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was interesting. And then the last one was the new Dune movie, which I thought was fantastic if you like sci-fi.
I heard it was great and that it should only be seen in the theaters. So I don't know what's going to happen with me on that one, but
So I watched it at home. I can see how it would be a million times better, like in IMAX, where your face is just getting blown off by speakers and it's tons bigger. But it was really good, and they're gonna make more. So I'm excited.
okay. We've been watching season 2 of The Morning Show. I think I hate it. It's on Apple TV. It's got a really great cast, and I think I hate it. So I'm not recommending that, actually. But I started watching something called Money Heist on Netflix.
Oh, it's good.
It's dubbed, so it's subtitles. Not dubbed. You just have to do subtitles.
It's both, right?
Yeah, I think, but I prefer subtitles over like not matching up with the. But the one thing is, I like to work on stuff while I watch TV, and I can't while I watch that. So you got to really actually just pay attention, because it's a lot of dialogue. But it's really good. And anything like that with thieves and capers and so on, like I'm all the way in. Like Inside Man, The Illusionist. Trying to think what else I love. Even like dopey movies like The Italian Job. I'm in on all of it. Count of Monte Cristo. Anything with like lots of twists and turns like that, where someone's really smart and they're manipulating what's going on. I love that stuff. So Money Heist is really interesting. I'm only on like episode 3, but I've really enjoyed it so far. So that'd be my recommendation for now.
It's good. I recommend it as well.
And other than that, I've been pretty busy. So I don't know. I recommend the players and the owners getting it together for the major leagues and making sure we have a season that starts on time and that minor league players can afford to live. That'd be what I'd recommend. All right, this is long. It's been long.
Yep.
Been a long time. So if you have ideas for the podcast, shoot them our way. If you feel that you would add to the podcast by being a guest, you can let us know that too. We'll probably try to get a few more people on to talk some football. I know we wanted to ask Brandon to come back too, since we asked Joel to come back. So Brandon, if you're listening, you've made it all the way to the end, we'd love to have you on in the next couple of weeks if you want to come join. If anybody has anything they really like want to rant about with their teams or whatever, that's really what we'd like, is someone up like poor Joel with the 49ers a couple of weeks ago, who, again, we didn't even mention that. The 49ers go into Los Angeles, beat the Rams to death after looking terrible for weeks and weeks in a row. I can't figure any of it out. It's just stupid. So.
Yep. Suggest your segments, COVID Corner 2.0.
I'm not doing more COVID stuff. You already know I got enough stress about that in my life. So, yeah. All right. Good to see you.
All right. You too.
Good luck with your pee bed.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
It's the best.
It's the best.
All right.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you.